No price talk and no Lambos. This is not another crypto podcast. Welcome to Ignition. I'm your host, Jillian, and each week we will be looking at the problems solved by blockchain. I'll be going deep with the people building the apps and communities which are changing the world around us. Welcome to Dublin EOS's Ignition podcast with me, Jillian Gotzel. This is actually a part two. It's the first time we've had a part two. It must be a new year, new beginnings. And I have again my guest from the part one, David Margulies. Did I get that? I think I got that right, did I?
Yeah, you did.
Yay,
perfect.
Woo! Otherwise known as Doghouse, who's very well known in the EOS community. So before we launch into a serious topic, I was admiring something that David had posted in Telegram, an amazing picture, like this real Picasso-style picture. And it's actually been done by Pixios. And tell me a little bit about Pixios.
Well, it was done by one of the members of Pixios, Samon. He's in the Telegram group for Pixios. It's Pixios, P-I-X-E-O-S.
Wow. Okay. And his name is?
Yusamon.
Yusamon. Okay.
Y-U-S-A-M-O-N. And I asked for, I went in the group while they were just starting out before their recent launch. And I asked for some stickers to be made from photos. And I got very artistic stickers made by somebody who sells art professionally. So
it's amazing. No, I mean, I saw the picture. It blew me away. I went, wow, that's fantastic. And I even like the color, the use of the dark and the color. Absolutely beautiful. And tell me, is that what this chain does? Is that they do art? Is that what they do?
It's an art group that has a DApp for art on the blockchain.
Wow.
I can't do them justice, but it's worth jumping in the group and seeing what they're doing and reading their website.
Well, I can just echo that. When you sent me that photograph this morning, I went, I love it. I mean, I would have that printed, put on canvas and on my wall. Well, not your one, obviously, but that would be a bit strange. But maybe have one of myself or my kids done. It looks amazing. It's fabulous. So thank you for sharing that. I'm very pleased. So Pixios, P-I-X-E-O-S. People go and check it out. Right. And actually, I may have them on the podcast the next time. That'll be a nice thing to do. So anyway, back to
they're doing a coin sale right now.
Oh, so they'd be interested.
They probably would be very interested. Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay, well, that sounds amazing. So they sound like a really good guess. So back to you, David. We had a really interesting talk the last time. We went from toddlers and diapers, and it went from theory and Horatio, and we covered a lot of ground. Very interesting. But today we're going to concentrate on one thing, and it's the worker proposal funds. And can we start at the very beginning? Can you explain what the worker proposals are?
Well, if you don't mind a mild correction, let's not call it the worker proposal fund. Mm-hmm. Or the worker proposal system. That name has gotten too much negative baggage because of all the FUD that flies around. So we've renamed what we're proposing in the referendum as the EOS Commons Development Fund. So the CDF.
Okay, excellent.
Because the important point is not that it's worker proposals, but rather this is a commons that is owned by the community, and it is for development. It's in the white paper as 4% put aside for development. And EOS is a new launch software. No software lives without support, and no software will grow without development. So something like this is obviously necessary. And when the code was being written for EOS.io, Dan put it in. Now, he's backpedaled since then, but we're kind of used to that.
Okay, so there's 4%, and that money is put aside. Obviously, EOS raised a huge amount of money, or the block one, whatever, the 4 billion, whatever. So that 4% is put aside for developments and improvements on the chain as agreed by the community. Would that be correct?
That's fairly correct, although the 4 billion has nothing to do with us. That's Block One's money. That has nothing to do with EOS. People need to get out of their head that Block One is a part of this community. They are only a part of this community in the sense that they own a lot of coin.
That's a very good point.
They will not save us. They will not save us. They will not support us. They cannot. Legally, they cannot. And I think in some ways, emotionally, they cannot. They have no fiduciary responsibility. They were very clear on that in their initial coin offering, and their behavior since has been very clear on that. The community stands alone. So we are the children of a father who has abandoned his responsibilities, a bad father, a deadbeat dad. The deadbeat dad may show up on birthdays and bring a gift from time to time, but he's not supporting us, and we shouldn't wait for him to show up. We should do what we need to do to grow up and be adults on our own.
Do people in the community understand that?
I don't think so. I think there's still a lot of, what does Dan say? What does Dan say? What does Block 1 say? Oh, tell me. I don't care what Dan says. I don't care what Block 1 says. They are just people doing their jobs. Let them do their jobs. If they give us something good, great. If they tell us something stupid, we should be able to say, that's really stupid.
That is very interesting, because I would have made the mistake of having Block 1 and EOS very closely aligned. So that 4% that was earmarked, does that exist?
Yeah, it's being saved right now in EOS.io saving.
Okay.
That account exists. Right now, I think it has 23 million tokens.
Okay, so it's not unsubstantial still. It's a lot of money.
Quite large. 23 million is not chump change.
No, and it's ring-fenced at the moment?
Ring-fenced?
As in no one else can touch it? It's going to be for the worker proposals of the Commons Fund?
That's a really good question. EOS is DPoS. And if the block producers were to be unethical scumbags, they could make an excuse and pillage it. They have that ability.
Wow.
But as I've tried to explain to other people, that's like saying if someone has a penis, they are by definition a rapist. Well, potentially, but that's really impugning people without evidence.
Right. Okay. So it's just because you have it, you're not going to use it in that particular manner.
Yes.
So, okay. So, and you said you made a comment there, you used the verb essentially, you said they're saving. Is that an ongoing thing?
Yes. Every time there's inflation on the blockchain, the 1% that goes to the block producers and 4% that goes into saving.
Okay.
EOS.io saving is an account.
It's an account. Excellent. So who are the gatekeepers of that account?
Currently, no one. No one can access it except the block producers. The only way they should be giving access is if there is a referendum to use that money. And that's what we're proposing with the CDF.
And is it a
referendum to access that as it was supposed to be accessed? Okay.
And this referendum is a once-off to define how those funds can be accessed. Am I right there? It's not for every project.
Well, no, I want to word this very carefully because anyone who misunderstands will immediately jump on it. So, and the sound engineer can cut that aside out.
Okay.
The EOS.io savings is earmarked for the development fund. It is a commons and it is earmarked for the community to use. The referendum that we are proposing is to establish a system whereby those monies can be used with minimal risk of fraud, waste, and abuse.
So you're working on who's actually going to frame the referendum, or not the referendum, but frame the actual system by which the monies can be accessed. Who will collate that?
We've done the first steps of work. If you go to Medium, I will give you the link, medium.com/WPS-working-group-EOS. There is a page of articles about this, and the latest draft of the referendum is posted there under my name.
And will the referendum include the actual details? You know, often you have a referendum and then lawmakers go off and produce the law afterwards. But this referendum...
So let me tell you what it is, and it will probably answer your question.
Sure.
We are establishing an initial transfer of 1 million tokens to an emergency committee that can fund the things that need to be funded now, things that can't wait. These are things that if we don't fund them, we miss a big opportunity for the community that would create great benefit, or there's a fire that needs to be put out now.
Yeah.
And that 1 million tokens will also fund the emergency committee. The emergency committee has a shelf life. It's supposed to last 6 months or until the funds run out or until it is replaced. And part of what we have created is a system whereby the community can decide how to replace it. And we've broken it into 5 parts, 5 categories. So there's an infrastructure, a development, community, miscellaneous, and oversight. And each of those categories could have a different governance structure. And each of those categories can only access up to 10% of the savings account. So if you add that up, you get 50% of savings.
Yeah.
So what happens to the other 2% of inflation? Right now, we're planning on burning it until the community needs it. So rather than saving it and it collects in a jar, we're just going to get rid of it as it comes in.
Okay. Now, with the people on the committee, how will they be selected? Who make these decisions?
They're already selected. I'm one of them.
Okay.
I'm probably the weakest member. The other committee members of the 7 on the emergency committee are listed in that referendum document or in one of the links in the referendum document, because it's a nesting egg of links. You click one and then you go through that document and there's another link and you go through that. It's a wormhole. It's a rabbit hole, basically.
And how did everybody, including yourself, get selected for this position?
Well, the first thing is there had to be a willingness to do a thankless job, a difficult job, a thankless job, and a job that is going to cause a lot of headache dealing with much of the community. If you wait a moment, I will read you the exact. Okay. So a strong community presence, visible integrity, good communication skills in at least one of the 3 main languages. That would be English, Korean, or Chinese. Representative of geographical diversity. We didn't want a bunch of people from New York and East Canada doing everything.
Yeah.
And we didn't want a bunch of people in Beijing doing everything. Having an existing role as an independent thought leader. This means that we didn't just want the head of 7 BPs.
Yeah.
We gave preference to people who were not associated with BPs, but were still influential in the community.
Okay.
So not Block 1 employees, not BP employees, as much as possible. Then displaying both strongly held beliefs and an exhibited ability to change their mind. But very opinionated is good, but very opinionated and unwilling to change is not somebody we want on an initial committee.
Sure.
Especially because it's an iterative process and we're going to make mistakes and we're going to learn from them. But our goal is to set the best precedents we can to show that a functional ethical system does work on EOS.
Okay, so I like the criteria. They're very
Wait.
More.
The last criteria was having a willingness to do the often difficult and thankless work.
Okay.
And that one is the one that bumped most people that we thought about. So we started with a list of about 50 people and then started going through 50 or 60 people, a fairly long list, and then going through, talking to them about other things, reading up on their past posts, seeing how the community responds to this person. And then finally, if they seemed like a good fit, approaching them. At that point, we lost 99% of the people we talked to. Because what? It's a fairly unpaid position, and you want me to work how many hours a week? And I have to tell the community why I made my decisions? Oh, God, no.
Okay, so you have articulated the criteria, which is quite difficult and demanding. But the story, as you explain it, is that you were approaching different people and they would back off when they discovered how arduous the criteria was and the job was going to be. But it was a question of inviting people to join the committee as opposed to voting people onto the committee.
Yes, it was a core working group discussed who would be a good fit. Okay. Then we reached out to those people and made a slate based on the criteria and the talking with them. The question is, well, why didn't we get to vote for them has come up a few times. Who are these people? How were they selected? And why weren't they elected? Why were they picked? That question is annoying beyond belief. We need a voting system in place in order to vote for things. What sort of voting system should we have? I don't know. Let's vote on it.
Because it's so early.
The decentralized nature really makes bootstrapping, as you said, arduous, an arduous process. We are trying to create something from nothing. And unfortunately, projects like this do not jump sui generis, fully formed from Zeus's forehead like Athena. They have to be built piece by piece. And why didn't I get to vote? Well, we started this working group months ago. The working group started in April or May. The people have been working on it nonstop since then, and there has been a public group where people could be involved and make their opinions known, as well as the private working group. Do you know the story of the little red hen?
Sort of. Remind me.
I'm not sure if it's an Irish tale as well as an American tale, but basically, the little red hen finds some wheat seeds in the field after gleaning, and she brings them home and she tells the other animals in the barnyard, I'm going to plant this and make some flour and then make some bread. Who will help me plant this? And the cow says, not I. And the horse says, not I. And yes, and you
keep on going.
Again, an iterative. Yeah, it's an iterative process. But then she says, well, then I'll plant it myself. And she does. She plants it herself. And then it's time to water it. And she asks the cat, will you help me water it? And the cat says, I'm kind of busy. And she asks the dog. And the dog says, piss off. And she asks the horse. And the horse says, got things to do. She asks the cow. And the cow is just chewing a cud, staring at her with a dead face. So the chicken goes off and waters it on her own. Well, the wheat grows. And there's weeding that needs to go on. And of course, no one helps the chicken. So she does it on her own. And then the wheat needs to be harvested and she does it on her own. And then the chaff needs to be separated. Again, no one helps her. No one wants to. She asks for help. No one volunteers. So she takes it to the mill. She gets it ground. She gets flour. She bakes the bread. Again, all on her own. Now the lovely smell of bread is wafting through the farmyard. And the other animals show up and say, hey, can I get a piece? And the chicken rightly says, fuck off.
I think she says no in the official book. I don't think she curses.
If it were you and you did all that work and someone said, I know I didn't help you with any of this, even though you asked for help, but could I have a piece? What would your answer be?
Definitely no.
You'd say, maybe not fuck off, but you'd probably tell them to feck off.
The Hiberno English version of fuck off is feck off. You're right.
Yeah.
So you get, okay. That's a very good analogy for trying to produce something. People are going after the fact and saying, well, why wasn't I involved? You could have got involved, buddy.
Yes, we are a community of volunteers, and it's the people who do the work who are getting the most abuse. Or why did you get to do the work?
Yeah, kind of ironic, isn't it?
How do you respond to that? Why did I get to do the work? Because you're lazy shit who wouldn't do anything.
Or you could say shite, which is the Irish version of the word. So you explained that terribly well with the little red hen story. When will the actual referendum take place?
There are a few BPs, as far as I understand, there are a few BPs that have yet to sign off on the finished tools.
Yeah.
But the tools are complete. There's just some niggling little things that need to be tweaked. So probably at the latest in the next 2 weeks, we should have a referendum ready to go.
Brilliant. So, right. Now my question is, right, so I understand how you set it up together, the volunteer stuff, the hassle, I'm a volunteer in many organizations. You get no thanks, that's for sure. And there's loads of politics, it's crazy stuff. You're not paid. Why am I doing this? So anyway, when the referendum happens, so going forward, will the committee that administers the fund, will that be a rotating one, or how will that work?
The emergency committee is a one and done. The idea is the emergency committee is there only until the categories can be established with proper governance. And the proper governance needs to be decided by the community.
Okay.
Basically, it's telling the community, we want to allow you to experiment with little risk to the community. We want you to try different things. We want you to come up with your ideas rather than us create something and then you tell us why it's bad. You create something. There are 5 categories. As each category comes online, that part of the emergency committee's purview disappears and goes to the category.
Okay.
And hopefully we either replace the emergency committee completely within 6 months, or the emergency committee runs out of funds and it's gone.
Okay.
It's not a repeating event.
And then going forward, is the model sort of vaguely the model that you have? We'll have a committee for each of the 4 sections. People will apply. 5. People will read stuff, or they'll apply and say, "I think I want to do this. It'll make the community better," and they will agree or not. And everybody will earn money from it. So the developer will earn money from if their DAP is considered, and people who are sitting on the committee will earn money for their time. Is that how it works? Or people on the committee?
Our committee, for the emergency committee, we earn 1 EOS per meeting. And we have a meeting every 2 weeks.
Okay, so that's nominal.
That is a token payment.
Yeah, literally.
Yes.
So, but the actual 5 committees, will people who sit on those committees, will they be paid as well properly?
Well, they're categories, and they might be committees. The community might decide that the miscellaneous category should be run as a pure democracy.
Okay.
The oversight category might be run as a committee because oversight tends to do better with fixed names in place. The infrastructure or development might be run by one guy who the community elects as dictator in chief for 1 year.
Wow.
It might be a punishment position. We might say, we're sick of your nonsense on Telegram. You are now responsible for this for the next 6 months.
Wow. So there's still a lot to be decided, isn't there? There's still a lot. It's kind of like looking in a mist. You can see.
Yes, but I don't want to hear complaints from anyone ever that why haven't you given us something complete and fully formed? We haven't given you a complete and fully formed finished product because we need to test, and the community needs to put its input in. You can't just wait to be given something and then saying, I don't like that. I think we talked about children the other day. When your children were very young, if you asked them, what do you want for dinner? And they said meatballs, then you gave them meatballs. But if you said, what do you want for dinner? And they said, I don't know. And then you gave them meatballs. And they said, I don't want meatballs. You'd tell them, eat it or go away. Go to your room.
Yeah.
That's dinner. And dealing with the community at times, it's, I don't want to cook you meatballs if you're not going to eat them. So why don't you tell me what you want?
Yeah, yeah. What if they want chocolate cake for dinner? We know it's not good for them.
That's why we've broken the category. That's to extend the metaphor. That's why we've broken it into 5 categories and limited the funds available to each category. So if the community decides, hey, we want Bodie McBoatface to be the category for oversight, and that's just a disaster, obvious from the start, well, then the community can get rid of it. And the only damage that Bodie McBoatface could do is access to 10% of the inflation during the period that they were left in place.
Yeah.
And that will be significantly smaller than what they could do if they had access to the entire fund.
That's cool. You are involved. I know maybe thankless. I know you may get a lot of guff. I know that because you put your head above the parapet, it makes you a target. But it's very interesting. Is that why you do it?
I ask myself almost weekly, why the hell am I doing this? Part of it is it's just my personality. If something is assigned to me and I can see that I can do it, I want it off my desk. I want to do it and get it done correctly so I don't have to look at it again.
Yeah.
And I really don't like watching people do something badly if I know how to do it. If I don't know how to do it, I'm very happy to have experts do it.
Yeah.
I would rather pay somebody to fix the problem if they know how than try to fix it myself by reading all the manuals. At the same time, if I already know how to do it, I would rather do it than watch somebody flounder. And why I'm involved in governance is I think that attitude is shared by a number of people to do it right. This is important and it needs to be done right. And we have some experience.
Yeah. Well, I think this is fascinating. I had no idea it was so complex. I had no idea it was so, it's like birthing something. It really is. It's nebulous. I know. It's like, oh my goodness, it's not easy. Not easy at all. No, it's not.
No,
it's not.
It really isn't. And because we don't have data, sure, other blockchains have done worker proposal systems, but they've often failed. And that's one of the reasons, apparently, why Dan left BitShares was the worker proposal system died. And so there was no growth. So a badly run worker proposal system is in no one's best interest.
I can see that. Why, yes, yeah.
But we will make mistakes, and we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If there are mistakes, we should fix them. We should learn from the mistakes and make a better product. Yeah. That's what I'm aiming for. I'm actually hoping that we get at least one bad proposal during the first 6 months. So we can, one proposal that goes bad, we fund it and they don't perform as expected or as promised, and we cancel their funding and show the community this is how it's handled. Yes. A failure is not the end of the world.
And I mean, and people can fail for many reasons, and not all of them, like, just out of badness, it could just be a genuine failing, as a lot of things don't work out, but how to handle it. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm very impressed.
Our community isn't particularly good at handling failure. When something doesn't work well, we tend to run around, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. I don't know if that's EOS or crypto in general. Yeah. Chicken Little.
Chicken Lickin'. I've been brainwashed by branding there. Chicken Little, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it is. It might be crypto because things happen so fast. It's like, as opposed to let's just see what's happening here, folks. Yeah. I don't know. It is very interesting. I have to say, David, I had no idea I was going to be so fascinated by this conversation. I thought it was going to be like a very straightforward question, talk, and one of the questions that I asked seemed fundamentally accurate at the time. Why aren't you elected? Who isn't elected? We have this, fixation with election in the modern world. But you're right; it's so much more complex than that. It doesn't. Election itself's not going to solve it. Far from it. Anyway, you couldn't do it anyway. How are you going to make it? Just by putting people in charge if they haven't worked through the system. Very interesting.
Most governments start throughout the world by a group of revolutionaries electing themselves to create a new government. And in the case of EOS, that's what's happened. A number of people stood up and said, okay, let's form a committee and start working on this. And the problem is we could go the way of Stalin or the way of Robespierre, or we could just descend into chaos. And we don't want any of those. But we as a community have a tendency toward Robespierre. If you're not as pure as we are, we don't like you, even if we're on the same side. And we would rather kill you we would rather kill an ally who isn't pure enough than an enemy who's trying to destroy us.
Is that good or bad?
It's a horrible thing.
So, but you're saying you're all like that. That's why I'm not going to jump in here and denounce you for being a Robespierre. But
no, I'm saying us as a community. I'm saying all of us.
Okay. Sorry. That's why there was the pause. I'm thinking, I don't really want to jump in here and say that's terrible and accuse this poor man of something. Oh yes, I see. So as a community, that makes sense because it's also new and it's also there is that whole that's
if your politics aren't the same as mine or as pure as mine, then something's bad and we need to get rid of you.
Yeah.
And we've been, even before launch, we were doing that. And it's a bit tiring after a while.
Sorry, it's my clock in the background. I don't think my hands make any difference. It's early as well, but never mind.
It's 7 minutes fast.
Yeah, I keep on putting it back. It has a tendency to go fast. It's a bit like it's a crypto clock. It's running fast the whole time. No matter if I'm putting it back, and it still runs. The crypto clock. I have one of those. How amazing! Wow, still worked by hand power. Okay, well, that is a fascinating conversation. I think I'm going to have you back again when the referendum runs and see how that goes. Because I think that'll be very interesting to see what the next steps are.
Well, I hope that everybody votes for the first few referendums. The Commons Development Fund definitely needs your vote. And when the Constitution comes up for referendum, I hope that enough people vote for it that we don't get stuck with an ongoing quagmire.
Mm-hmm.
I think
so
that
vote often and vote early. Vote early and vote often.
Yeah, that's Mayor Daley. The Chicago political machine. The issue is that people know at this point that if I'm against something, voting no is not in my best interest. It's easier to game the system by not voting at all because of the way our system is set up. Mm-hmm. So I'm asking, be a decent person, everyone out there, and vote no if you believe no.
Okay, that's fair enough.
That way we get an honest representation of the interest in the subject. Okay. I would rather lose the referendum for the CDF on no votes or not enough yes over no than have 57 million yeses, period.
Yeah.
Because 57 million wouldn't be enough to get us over a referendum. 78 million are needed. No, sorry. If there are no votes at all, we would need 150 million plus.
Wow. Okay. So we need the no voters as well. Big time.
Yes,
voting, just voting.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I realize people don't want to, but it's the right thing to do. And, people are saying whales are this and whales do that and whales are bad. But I think at the end of the day, the whales are going to be what makes these things work.
Mm-hmm.
And we've tried hard to make the system, if not proof against whales giving themselves money, very costly for whales to abuse this system that we've created.
It's good to know.
And the risk reward benefit would be fairly low to try to game the system, but we still want whales to support it. And I think they will, because the whales benefit from a healthy ecosystem because the value of their portfolio goes up.
It's a no-brainer.
It's only very short-sighted speculators who don't care about the long-term growth of the system.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to finish on that note because I'm worried that my Zoom's going to run out anyway. That's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And I love that your call out at the end, shout out to say, vote. Please, everybody vote. I'm going to put that into the editorial connected with this too as well. Amazing conversation.
That's what everybody needs to do. Be an educated and informed and involved voter.
And I totally agree with that. I totally agree.
You don't have to agree with me. You disagree with me. Call me a load of bullets. But...
Damn it, vote, man. Well, I think that's a very good point to end on, I think. We couldn't say any better. Thank you so much, David Margulies, Doghouse, here on...
Doghouse, yes.
Doghouse Ignition podcast with EOS Dublin, with me, Jillian Gossel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.